Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Big Four Football Podcast. We got a lot to get into, so let's get right into it. We'll start with some off-the-field news. Michigan State has decided to re-up Mel Tucker a 10-year, $95 million extension at Michigan State. So reactions from this?
Yeah, I think I said this previously. I thought Mel Tucker was going to use this year, and the rumors that he's going to leave for another job to use it as a negotiating tool to get a higher salary, which I think he's done. Michigan State really had, after this year, Michigan State really had no choice but to extend him with what he's done there so far. You can clearly see they're building something. You can clearly see that the impact he has had on the program and on the culture of Michigan State, and he's brought Michigan State football back to national prominence. And they really had no. I mean, it's not like they don't have the money, so they really had no choice to do it. Good for Mel Tucker, getting the bag, and good for Michigan State for hopefully locking him down and keeping him from going from other jobs. Now, this also could be a play where they just used it to get the buyout money when LSU hires him.
Yeah, I mean, this hasn't been finalized, so I'm going to refuse to talk about it. I actually think it's a little weird that it hasn't been finalized yet for how long it's been reported.
Well, Mel actually talked about it, so.
Yeah, well, nothing's been signed, nothing's been finalized. I refuse to talk about it.
He talked about it, but it's not going to happen, actually.
Yeah, nothing's been finalized or signed. I refuse to talk about it.
Yeah, I mean, you're just holding on to the slight hope that you were still right and I was wrong. But I told you all along this was going to happen. Michigan State, I told you they had the resources. The question was, were they willing to use the resources to keep them? And I'm glad that they were able to do that. People saying how this is such a big contract and blah, 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 blah. No, this is like, I heard a great comparison the other day. This is equivalent to when the Lions paid Matthew Stafford. He was the highest paid quarterback in the league for about a year. And then after 2 years, he was like the 50th highest paid. All right. This is the cost of doing business in today's college football. If
Michigan State wanted to be competitive and respectable, they had no choice to extend Mel Tucker.
Yeah, they didn't
have a choice.
No choice. And now you look back at Jimbo Fisher, 10 years, $75 billion, and it dwarfs it. I remember when he signed that contract, everybody was saying how crazy of a contract that was. No, it's just the cost of doing business, and it's going to keep going up. This deal alone, I'm sure, will get a lot of coaches extensions just on the amount of money he's making alone. And in college football, you have two realistic choices when you have a coach. Either you give him a raise or you fire him, or in Michigan's case, you just cut his salary in half, or I guess Nebraska's doing the same thing. That's very rare.
Nebraska is moving funds around so that they can hire more assistant coaches. Michigan just cut Jim Harbaugh's salary because they knew he was being shit.
Yep.
That's the spin we're going with.
So I told you they had to pay him. I'm extremely happy. I think Michigan State has decided they're not going to be a tier 2 program. It's not just the salary. There's got to be more investment in facilities, which there are. There's got to be more investment in the assistant coaching pool, which there will be. And there's got to be a level of focus in the football program that just hasn't been there. Whether that's improvement of the fan aspect of Michigan State football, whether that's obviously facilities. I mean, maybe I know Mel Tucker wants a new field. Are we going to get turf? Because the recruits like the turf. Maybe we'll make it a neon turf.
I don't understand that. I don't think recruits care if you play on turf.
Yeah, no, Luke. You have to understand. If Mel Tucker says something, that means it's 100% right, no matter what, and the recruits like it. That's
reported. That's what he thinks.
No. Yeah. That's how Mike thinks.
No, listen, it's true. The truth is, recruits actually like playing on turf more because grass is all gross and wet and muddy when it rains.
Slows you down. Makes you look slower for the NFL scouts.
Yeah, I mean, you laugh at that. There's probably a reason. And there's a reason why most
So,
big time college
so
football programs have turf.
you're telling me that when Ryan Day and Kerry Coombs go to a defensive recruit's house, they sit down and say, we know you're deciding between us and Michigan State, but just remember, if you go to Michigan State, you'll be playing on grass, which will slow you down, and that's a bad look for the NFL. That's what Kerry Coombs is telling these defensive recruits.
When it rains, you want to be playing on turf. I mean, there's no doubt about it.
Yeah. I mean,
This
Mel
isn't important. No. Shut up. This is important. Okay. Not only that, I hate the University of Michigan, but their field looks 20 times better than our field. You know why? Because turf looks great and grass looks like shit.
No,
especially
look at Ohio
later
State's field. Our field's now 6-7 years old and it looks horrible. But we're also getting a new one.
Maybe Ohio State should be investing in football as much as Michigan State is.
Well, they literally just put out a request for students to send in designs for the new football turf.
Yeah, and here's the thing. I think we should get a neon turf. It would be unique. And I'm sure people wouldn't go blind trying to watch the football games.
Instead of the Boise State blue field, just that green neon uniform.
Yeah, the green neon. And I think the state
and,
logo should go from end zone to end zone. Just state.
And instead of the Spartan helmet, have the block letters STATE.
I've heard that Mel Tucker likes the gruff Sparty logo so much that it might be our new midfield logo.
Yeah, and of course you'll be in favor of that because whatever he says goes. He could commit war crimes.
No, I only care about what the recruits like. That's all I care. The recruits. I mean, if the recruits said we want to play naked, I'd be okay with that as long as the recruits like it.
But you have no idea what the recruits like. Mel Tucker says something, you're like, oh yeah, the recruits love that.
Why would Mel Tucker say the recruits like this? That's why we're doing it.
That's what you say. He could.
How many times do we see an official visit of a Michigan State player or someone who's planning on, obviously taking an official visit, and they wear the neon uniform every time? Why? Because they love it. The recruits love it.
How many times do we see him go there and then be like, I was going to go to Michigan State, but they had grass field instead of turf, and that was really the deciding factor.
I really think that long snapper that Ohio State got a couple years ago, that was definitely an aspect of it. I mean, listen, the grass looks bad, especially at the end of the year. It's not as bad as like the Steelers field, but it's all patchy and dirt everywhere. It just doesn't look as nice. I know we're spending a lot of time on this, but it's important, and I think Michigan State. We got to start selling booze. We got to get the fans going. Maybe add some more luxury boxes. I don't know. Figure out a way to make the fan experience better.
You need to shrink your stadium so that, dude, like this, how U.S. soccer only goes to 5,000, 10,000 seat stadiums because they know they can fill those. Michigan State has like 80,000 person stadium and they can only get 50,000 stands.
That's not true.
Fans. You got to shrink the stadiums. What you got to do.
We've sold out every game except for the Youngstown State and Maryland game. The Maryland game was a joke.
How do you not sell out a game? Like, I don't understand that.
Because
especially when you're having
the culture around the culture on Michigan State football is not as sound as other programs. People are, if the fan experience sucks and the tailgating experience sucks, they just stay home. And that's the truth of the matter.
Because people are now realizing COVID has made people realize that games are more comfortable and easier to watch and better to watch from your couch than they are from going through the whole process of going to the field to watch it.
Obviously, Michigan fan asking me how do you not sell out a game when they can't even sell out their banner ceremony. I don't really want to hear anything about that.
Listen, if you go look at the official attendance from that game, we sold it out.
Yeah, well, there was nobody there. They were all at Harbaugh's press conference because that's all they care about.
We sold out that game. Go look at the attendance.
Just like just like the Red Sox used to sell out every game, but really they were just handing tickets out to the street and they were counting them as selling them out.
They did. They sold out. They had a big streak going.
All right. So I think this means that we're going to be catapulting Penn State. We're going to be catapulting Michigan. This is the type of investment that Michigan is not putting into their football program. We're going to pass Michigan in the next couple of years. And I expect to be competing for the Big Ten once in a while. Obviously, I'm realistic. Ohio State's a better program, and they will always be a better program. But who says we can't be second in the East? I'm expecting that. I think we got a great coach. I think we got a great future. I'm happy. I've never been more happy as a Michigan State football fan, and I will never be more sad tomorrow, probably. Well, that's not true. Losing to Rutgers and turning the ball over 7 times is pretty bad. All right, let's go to the results from last week. Michigan with a solid win, but it was against their unranked team on the road. So reactions for this game.
Listen, at the end of the day, a win's a win. Like I said last week, all Michigan has to do at this point is make it so that the Ohio State game is for the East and for a spot in the Big Ten. There's a big win for Jim Harbaugh to prove that he can win these type of games. But I mean, this is Penn State's a solid team. But I mean, Michigan should be killing a Penn State team like this, the way they are playing and the season they've had and the injuries that they've suffered. But win's a win, keeps Jim in a job, and he just has to make sure that this Ohio State game means something for Michigan, other than beating Ohio State, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, I know I said you are what your record says you are, but that's only when you apply it correctly. The reality of the matter is Penn State should have been 8-1 coming into this game. And listen, they played a good game.
You are what your record says you are.
No, only when you apply it correctly. Yeah, I mean, they played a good game. They obviously got a little too cute on the fake field goal in the first quarter at the goal line. That was one of the dumbest plays I've ever seen.
Yeah, that was a Jim Harbaugh move too.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, Michigan defensively, the pass rush is really, I mean, I don't know if there's a better pass rush in the country. Obviously they have other holes on defense, but Hutchinson and Ajabo are really good on the edges. So it was good to see them get after Clifford for the whole day. Offensively, no Blake Corum. That's tough, but I think Haskins is probably the better back anyways. He had a great game. 156 yards on the ground. Unbelievable. Cade McNamara played a great game. And, they go down 17-13 or 14, and I think it's another Michigan choke. And for the first time in the history of my fandom watching Michigan football, they have a game-winning drive in the fourth quarter. I've never seen that. I never thought I would see that, and they actually did it. That was probably the best moment I've ever had watching Michigan football, to be honest with you. The touchdown to Eric All to win the game. Great win for Michigan. This is their best team they've had under Harbaugh. I'm ready to say it now. I know 2016 was good, but the bottom line is
I'd say 2018 was better.
No, you can't have in 2016.
At least you beat your one rival that year.
2016, you look at what they had, and they were really good on defense, even with Don Brown, and they were good in a lot of other places too. But the bottom line is they had Wilton Speight playing quarterback, and that's why they lost to Ohio State.
They lost to Ohio State because Jim Harbaugh's a retard.
Well, Wilton Speight fumbled the ball on the goal line and threw.
He also did a play action pass on his own 1 yard line.
Is Cade McNamara good enough?
He's better than Wilton Speight.
Oh, okay. We're off the rails.
I just want to point out the fact that by week 4, it was week 4 that I was saying that what's going to happen is that this Michigan's team, just like every year except for last year because it's a COVID year and doesn't count, it's going to get all the Michigan fans and Chris to buy in going into the Ohio State game. They're going to believe they have a chance, just like Chris is saying now. He said, no, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. I'm never going to believe again. And look at this. Just like I said, Chris is buying into this.
No,
Ohio
I'm
State
not
game.
Believing. Listen.
Yes, you are. You just said it's possible. You said they would have beat Ohio State.
You're saying they're going to win the national championship.
And then I said, is McNamara good enough? And you said yes.
I did not. I said he's better than Wilton Speight.
You have bought in. You have bought into this Michigan team.
Luke
Just like every other Michigan
is
fan,
he good
going
enough?
to break your heart.
Listen, there's no quarterback good enough.
He wasn't good enough to beat Michigan State.
There's no quarterback good enough to play for Michigan to beat Ohio State. I don't care if Tom Brady's playing quarterback. We're not beating.
What about
Ohio
JJ?
State. Oh,
yeah,
definitely
JJ McCarthy.
But anyways, Yeah, I think we have a chance to keep it close against Ohio State. That's all I'm going to say. I don't think we have a chance to win, but I think we have a chance.
And next
to keep
week,
it close.
by next week, he's going to say, "I expect him to win."
No, I expect them to keep it close and be in the Rose Bowl. Also, a quick note: first game all year that JJ McCarthy hasn't played. Thank God. We better not see him the next 2 weeks.
I
I
love
hope he
how
brings out a. You know what would be the most Jim Harbaugh move ever? Is the week before the Ohio State game for Jim Harbaugh to put in a special package for JJ McCarthy to try to throw off Ohio State.
Yeah, they're going. Oh, yeah, I'm
I
expecting
start
that.
him actually because you need that passing element that McNamara can't give you.
Yeah, if they start JJ McCarthy, they lose the game 65-0.
Well,
Yeah.
I'd rather lose 65-0 than lose in a nail biter.
No, because we have to be playing. We're basically
No,
the Ohio
because
State
Harbaugh
game.
gets fired. Is that not what you want?
No, we're playing for the Rose Bowl in the Ohio State game. That's the only thing.
Okay,
we're
you
playing
get in the
for.
Rose Bowl. Michigan is a lock for the Rose Bowl.
If
they
we
beat
lose
Maryland.
65-0, then Michigan State will jump us. We have to keep the game close.
Michigan
We're playing
State,
the Rose
no.
Bowl.
No.
So yeah, I mean,
The Rose Bowl gets to choose, and they'll choose Michigan.
no. Yeah, I think it was a really nice win.
Nope. Yeah, they do.
For Michigan, and I expect them to take care of business this week. And
No, the Rose Bowl doesn't get to choose, do they? I thought it was the highest ranked team by the committee.
No, they get to choose. I learned that today.
Yeah, so
they can choose. They can either choose Michigan, Michigan State. Let's assume Ohio State wins out, but choose between those
Wisconsin.
two, or they could choose the
whoever wins
loser
the
of
West.
the Big Ten championship, Wisconsin presumably, or Iowa if Wisconsin loses one of the next two games, and Iowa wins out. But they're not going to. They're going to take the biggest fan base. They're going to take Michigan.
Good win. Take care of business this week and try and keep it close against Ohio State.
Listen, I mean, you can't complain. That's a hell of a win. I mean, Penn State's a good football team. Michigan came in there. I thought they'd win pretty easily, but Michigan did not play well for most of the game. But they still had a lead. Penn State came back, made it 14-14, and then McNamara with a choke fumble.
Yeah.
And then Penn State kicks the field goal, makes it 17-14. And then James Franklin tells Jim Harbaugh, "Hold my beer. We're gonna let Eric Gall run wide open with no one covering him."
No, you know what that was? That was a dime throw right there from Cade.
Yeah, it was a great throw. Unfortunately, you couldn't do that in the Michigan State game.
Yeah,
when it really mattered.
By the way, back to your fumble. Seriously, in all seriousness, that was the worst block that any offensive lineman has ever attempted to make in the history of football.
No, I don't want to hear any excuses. I don't. You got to feel that, as you would say.
You got to feel that.
Got to have a good feel.
By the time he caught the snap, the guy was on top of him.
No, he's got to have better feel. He's got to be able to feel that.
Well, he's got to know that guy got to get somebody to pick up the blitz.
He's got to know that his lineman is going to lose.
It wasn't even a blitz. It was a 4-man rush, and our left tackle.
I don't want to hear any excuses. Anyway, listen, no, all jokes aside, that was a solid win for Michigan. I do think Penn State's a little snake bitten, so I wouldn't put a whole lot into this. I think Penn State gave Michigan the game as much as Michigan took it. But you got to give them credit. Michigan is right where they want to be. Nothing has changed from the start of the season. Nothing has changed even from the Michigan State game. They still control their own destiny for the playoff, for the Big Ten. They just got to win their next two games. And it's as simple as that. They got a bad Maryland team, and they play Ohio State at home after Ohio State plays another top, 10 team, supposedly. So everything's in front of them. Michigan's just got to figure out a way. And I think Michigan's got a solid chance to do that. I do. I think Michigan is a good really, really good football team. I don't think it's the best team he's had at Michigan. I still think 2016 was better, and 2018 was pretty good too.
I mean, they lost 62-39 to Ohio State in 2013.
Well, as you would say, Don Brown is the only one that knows what he's doing at Michigan. But anyway, and I'd even say 2015.
That's why he's finally getting his break as a head coach.
Well, he's back in New England after being the Plymouth State head coach for a while. But anyway, yeah, I mean, Michigan went out. You're fine. Everybody, all three of these teams in the Big Ten East, there's nothing you can say. Just went out. You'll be fine. Penn State, embarrassing. I don't know what's going on there. It's not just this year. It's not just the COVID year last year. The year before that, they've had problems. They've had problems in the wrong spots. They have not been great on the offensive line. Wide receiver has been good.
Cannot run the ball.
Especially this year, they can't run the ball. And Clifford's good, really good,
No,
actually.
he's not. He's not
But
good.
I think he's hurt. I think that's one of the problems. And the other problem is he doesn't have a running game. And he can't run around now with his injury, his injured ribs. It seems like he's not running as much as he was. And I don't know. I don't know what's up with them. I mean, I think this might be a blessing in disguise for Penn State. I mean, as stupid as it is, I think a lot of programs are going to look at this and be like, oh, maybe James Franklin isn't our guy. And maybe Penn State can get him an extension. Or maybe, I've heard this theory around, maybe Penn State, maybe he bolts for Virginia Tech, pulls like a Shaka Smart, and goes to a lesser program, bolts to a lesser program because he might think it's easier to win. I don't know. But I think Penn State, they got probably his best recruiting class he's ever had coming in. So, I mean, but certainly a disappointing year. And they got a quarterback change next year they got to worry about. And it doesn't seem like they're starting quarterback
this year. They really have a tremendous backup quarterback.
Yeah, well, I think we all know that Kyle McCord is going to be the Penn State starting quarterback next year.
No, it's going to be DeQuan Roberson.
It's actually going to be Joe Milton, so he can come back and drop 50 on.
It's going to be Quinn Ewers after he transfers after being a high school senior. All right, Ohio State blast Purdue. What was the final score of that game? A lot to a little.
I mean, it was a lot. It was even the final score was a lot closer than the game actually was. I mean, Ohio State was up like 40. It was like 47 or 45 to 17 at halftime, and then Purdue played the second half even. But I mean, Ohio State was kind of just trying stuff, getting backups in, running the clock out, and this was expected. Everyone expected Ohio State. There's also question marks about Ohio State. I think, especially the way they played against Penn State. But I mean, everyone was expecting it. Purdue let down, and Ohio State absolutely just blasted.
Yeah, Purdue let down in full force. Ohio State, probably the second or third best team in the country, took care of business. I think right now,
right now, Alabama and Ohio State are the only teams that can give Georgia a run for their money right now.
That's shocking analysis.
One team, it's Ohio State.
Well, I think I would agree.
Alabama couldn't run the ball on LSU.
No, I agree with that. I don't think Alabama really can beat Georgia, but I have a hard time ruling them out with the history of Nick Saban in Alabama.
Yeah, the real tests are ahead for Ohio State, so we'll see what happens in the next 2 weeks.
Yeah, I mean, Purdue just shot themselves in the foot. Can't turn the ball over 2 times. And they were big turnovers. First half, Ohio State getting extra chances. And I think as a Michigan State fan, I think this is the result you want. You want Ohio State to kill the team before.
You want their offense to drop 50 points in the first half and feel good coming into the game against you?
No, I mean, I think that's a good thing because the last thing you want is a 2017 55-17 loss at Iowa. And you got a mad Ohio State team. I think that's the last thing you want. You want an Ohio State team, I don't want to say complacent, but feeling really good about themselves. But yeah, Purdue shot themselves in the foot.
Mike,
no, they had no chance to win.
Michigan State's biggest weakness this year, defensively, has been their secondary.
Yep.
And Ohio State throws for 400 yards a game.
Yep.
CJ Stroud might set the record for most Big Ten yards in a game.
He will. We could play any type of defense. He'd do it. I don't. That's not really something I'm considering. But here's the thing: we're going to need some turnovers. We're going to need maybe a special teams play. But listen, it's still a successful season for Purdue. I know Ohio State was still mad about that performance in West Lafayette a couple of years ago. So they got their quote unquote revenge, even though Tyler Trent's not with us anymore. So, but anyway, solid win for Ohio State. They're feeling pretty good about themselves. Big game here, Michigan State. Statement victory against Maryland. Reaction from this game.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's much to say. It was a good win for Michigan State. Good bounce back win, and keeps their hopes alive to win the Big Ten East.
Yeah, I don't take anything out of this game, but Luke, I wanted to tell you this. I know you haven't been able to be on Xbox, but you should have heard Mike a couple nights ago. In a classic fashion, talking about how good of a team Maryland is.
What are you talking about?
Yeah. So just
What
wanted
did
to
I
put that
say?
out there. So
Well, Chris,
if
do
Michigan
you
beats Maryland this week, that's great. It's gonna be a great win.
Chris, do
Yeah.
you disagree with him?
No, I was like, yeah, I told you so. They've been a great team all year.
No, here's what I said. I said we gave Maryland every chance to win, and they didn't take it.
No, you were talking about how dangerous Maryland was. You were all in on Maryland, really all in. I will say.
Well, here's what Maryland is. Maryland is if Ohio State is a mansion, Maryland is like an outhouse version of Ohio State. I mean, they got the athletes on the outside. I know some are injured. They run similar stuff. They want to spread you out, throw the ball, run the ball a little bit up the middle. And they don't have the guys Ohio State does. But that's all I said about Maryland. I think
you were all in on them.
I think their defense sucks. And they aren't good enough on the offensive line to do anything against even bad Big Ten teams. Yeah, I was not all in on them. Give me a break. Here's the thing. I was happy. I was happy with the performance. I thought we were focused. Obviously, this team has no right to have a look ahead game, especially the way they played the week before. Played horribly. I thought the defense played okay. We came up with some big stops. I thought Talia was horrible, as he usually is. He was god awful. He threw for 350, but most of them were empty yards. He did have a ton of drops. They dropped a lot of balls. Maryland did. But I thought we were able to get pressure on him, which the last couple of games, we have not been able to get pressure on anybody. We couldn't get pressure against McNamara. We could a little bit at the end, but for most of the game, we couldn't get pressure on him. And O'Connell was getting the ball out in 2 or 3 seconds. We had no chance getting pressure on him. We were able to get a little bit of pressure on Tagovailoa. Tungavailoa, not Tagovailoa. And we were able to force a couple intentional groundings there. That was pretty good. A couple drives where we once again looked like a team that's 130th against the pass. They went right down the field at the end of the half. Probably the worst prevent defense I've ever seen. But we got a little bit better. So that's something good, I guess you could take out for this game. We got a little bit better than we were against Purdue, which, I mean, you couldn't get much worse, I guess. And here's the thing. I was pleased with the fact that we were able to run the ball, especially because Maryland, they aren't great up front, but they really loaded the box. They did what Indiana did and what Nebraska did. They loaded the box, and Walker he was able to get 143 yards. They were tough earned yards, but it was still somewhat impressive. Especially, I know we've had some injuries. Our left tackle, Jarrett Horst, Arkansas State transfer, Chris. I think he might be out. He might be out for the year.
You're gonna go without the penalties though.
Yeah, I mean that is true. We will lose 2 15-yard penalties a game on him, which is somewhat a good thing. And I thought Thorne had his best game as a starting quarterback. He was brilliant. He can make all the throws, man. And there are times where he panics a little bit, and I think he can get a little bit rattled when you get pressure on him.
Yeah,
but I feel
exactly.
Like
I've been telling you he's lazy with the football.
Well, he was brilliant. His one pick was a Hail Mary at the end of the half, so it doesn't matter. 4 touchdowns, flea flicker that was brilliant. Again, just on a rope, 50 yards in the air on a rope, beautiful pass. Again, another fade to Jaden Reed for a second touchdown. Of course, Michigan knows a lot about the fate of Jaden Reed on that fourth down play. He throws those balls pretty well. We're going to need him to be Superman. I've said it this week. He's going to have to be Superman if Michigan State even wants to cover the spread this week. So I'm pleased. I'm pleased that this team, who I thought would be 8-4 at the best, and that was at the very best, 8-4. I thought they'd probably be 6-6, 7-5. But I'm extremely pleased the fact that we're still in this thing this late in the year, and still got a shot for a New Year's Six bowl, or even I'd say the floor for this team at this point is probably the Outback or the Citrus Bowl, which is pretty good. You can't really complain about that. Obviously, you want to beat Penn State at least. They're kind of a shell of their former self, but house money going into Columbus, which is can be a good thing, can be a bad thing. All right. Let's go to the Big Ten scoreboard here. All right.
The Big Ten record for most passing yards in a single game is 621.
Is that Dwayne Haskins?
No, it's Dave Wilson from Illinois against Ohio State in 1980.
Oh, so watch out. Well, watch out.
Is
Ohio
that
State,
record?
Jayden Thorne.
Is CJ Stroud going to throw for more than 620?
Yes, but hopefully, here's what I'd do. I know we're going to get into this later, but I'd go engage every play and try to get to him. And if beat him over the top for a touchdown, so be it. What I'm not going to do is get dink and dunk down the field. That's not what I'd do if I was the defensive coordinator. Anyway.
You want to get dinked and dunked. You want to slow the game down.
No, you don't. No, you don't. You want your defense to be as fresh as possible.
No, slow the game down.
Engage 8. I'd send 11 sometimes. I do everything to get pressure on him. Maybe try to rattle him. Maybe try to make him one interception. Oh, that's all you need. Well, you're going to need more than that, but you get what I say. You get what I'm saying. Anyway, Big Ten scoreboard: Wisconsin 35, Northwestern 7. Rutgers, somewhat surprising, 38-3 over Indiana.
Huge win.
Yep. Rutgers 1 win away from bowl eligibility. And Iowa 27, Minnesota 22. A game Minnesota Minnesota had it a little bit. They dominated the game for the most part. Again, Iowa, law of averages. I think it's swung so far the other way that it might be swinging back for them. So reactions from these games.
Yeah, classic Minnesota lost to Iowa. Wisconsin and Iowa still looks like they're the two teams that are going to be competing for the West coming down the stretch. Big win for Rutgers to give themselves a chance at being bowl eligible. And, I didn't expect Indiana. I expect them to be bad. Just because, like you said, a lot of averages, but also they had a tough schedule. They got hit. I didn't expect them to get hit by injuries like they have, but 0-7 in Big Ten playing 2-8 overall, that is to the extreme.
Yeah, I mean, the Wisconsin and the Rutgers games, whatever. Indiana is horrible. Yeah, but I was very disappointed in Minnesota. Just a complete choke, completely dominated the game. A lot of what Iowa's been doing all season. An embarrassing loss for Minnesota. PJ Fleck is the most overrated coach in the country. And it was an embarrassing loss.
He's overrated. Who rates him high?
A lot of people. He's
a
very
good, solid
overrated.
football coach.
No, he's overrated.
Well, winning
had one good year.
Minnesota is like winning 8 games at Iowa, probably.
No, they've had one good year.
No, this is a good year considering the circumstances.
It's embarrassing. They're
on 2 scholarship running backs.
I don't care. They have like a 10th year quarterback. It's an embarrassment.
Oh, speaking of this
He should
game,
be on the hot seat.
Padilla should replace Petrus. I thought he played pretty well. Once again, Iowa not able to run the ball, but helped by some Minnesota issues that they've had. Morgan, once again, Yeah, I mean, he might come back again. I mean, I don't know what his eligibility is, but I mean, the NFL is probably not going to want him. And I think he's a guy that he kind of struggles with the short routes, intermediate routes. He's a deep throw guy. He still throws one of the best deep balls I've ever seen. And he threw another good one against Iowa. But Minnesota, they've been injured. Their offensive line hasn't played nearly as well as they have had earlier. And we'll see if Minnesota can upset Wisconsin last game of the year. Maybe that's kind of what they're going for at this point. But hey, listen, they're still bowl eligible. Iowa find a way to win. I bet you the post-game win expectancy is probably 85, 90% Minnesota. But hey, Iowa finds a way to get a win. Whatever. Yeah, Rutgers solid win. Greg Schiano. I mean, this team, they don't have the pieces, especially up front. They get dominated most games, and they find ways.
Shiano, man.
They find ways. The fact that this team's 5-5 and will probably make a bowl because Maryland blows. That's pretty good. And Indiana, yeah, I'm a little worried about Indiana, not just this year, but for the future because, yeah, they've had injuries, but it kind of seems like they've given up.
Well, I mean, Indiana is set up to be screwed every single year until they change the conference divisions.
Yeah, the fact that Bloomington is east of West Lafayette screws them big time. If they were in the West, they'd probably be where Purdue is right now, and Purdue would probably be where Indiana is.
I understand why the Big Ten has the divisions like they are because you want these big games every year. You want Michigan, Ohio State, Penn State, and even Michigan State to play each other every single year because those are the big games. Those are going to get the ratings. But you think they'd want a more competitive Big Ten championship, but maybe not.
Leaders and legends, bring it back. Come on, let's do it. Michigan State would win that thing every year. They'd win. What are they? The leaders? I don't remember. Don't remember what. But I know Ohio State was in one. Michigan State were in the other.
We were in the leaders.
So we were in the legends then, with like Northwestern and Purdue and I can't remember. But anyway, yeah, Indiana. Yeah, I'm a little bit worried because it's okay if you lose your team for 1 year. We've seen Jim Harbaugh get his team back, and you could say that was a COVID year. So you could say, oh, it doesn't really mean anything. But it's going to be challenging because, I'm sure Penix will be back next year, but you're losing Freifogel, you're losing Hendershot, you're losing Micah McFadden. It's going to be tough. It's going to be a tough rebuild for Indiana. All right. So Baylor defeats Oklahoma. We're talking about this game because it has playoff implications. So Oklahoma now 13th in the rankings after this loss, but they only have one loss. So does this eliminate the Big 12 from the playoff?
No, Oklahoma State still has a chance, and I think I will say the thing that hurts Oklahoma is the committee has not respected Oklahoma at all in these ranking systems, and they've been proven right, I guess. Everyone has been saying, how is Oklahoma this low? How is Oklahoma this low? Each time these rankings come out, and Baylor finally beat them and proved the committee right. So I think Oklahoma might be eliminated unless they can. They still have the schedule in front of them that can make them competitive, but for all intents and purposes, I think Oklahoma's eliminated from the playoff. I think Oklahoma State still has a shot at it.
Yeah, Oklahoma and OSU, both of them, I think, are in it, but
in the playoff.
No, they're in the race. They probably going to play each other twice, though. I don't see either team winning both. And either way, if one of them goes 12-1, they're both going to need help because there are a lot of teams in front of them. But yeah, it's too bad Baylor was asleep against TCU the week before the Oklahoma game, or they'd be in it too. So
Baylor's not that good.
It's a crushing loss for them.
Baylor's a similar team to Michigan State. I don't think they're a very great power rated team. And there, you see that in this week's line. Kansas State's a 1-point favorite at home against Baylor. So, and Kansas State's a sneaky 7-3. I know we haven't really talked about them a lot, but who knows? Are they even in the Big 12 race? I'm assuming not. No, not really. They got 3 losses. A little off topic, but listen, I'm disappointed. I'm disappointed in Oklahoma. I thought they'd found something. And what I found hilarious was when Caleb Williams was struggling, you had the OU fans chanting for Spencer Rattler, which I found was hilarious. I mean, obviously, if a quarterback's not playing well, you always want the backup. That's just always how it works. But I just find it hilarious that Oklahoma was doing the same thing, but the other way around. And I mean, what the hell happened to Caleb Williams? I mean, obviously, I think he's been reading his press clippings or something, because he hasn't been playing as well. I know he played okay against Texas Tech, but he played terribly against Kansas. It's just, it's weird. It's weird to me how what's going on there. It was a disappointing loss because I thought Oklahoma had turned the corner a little bit, especially defensively. But Baylor just suffocated them. You got to give credit. I think Dave Aranda's I think he's the real deal. I think he's a great coach. And if I was one of these open jobs, I call him up and I'd say, you want to take my job.
Wow. What a recruiting pitch.
Even LSU, USC, because I think he understands how to win in college football. He's been around a lot of places, Wisconsin. He was at LSU, and I think he's built a culture there. And college football is all about culture, as we know, as Mel Tucker would say. It's all about building your culture, and I think he's built a great one there. And I think this isn't a great Baylor team, and I think they're going to get even better. With that being said, I think they're going to lose to Kansas State this week, but which makes it disappointing for Oklahoma because I thought Oklahoma was going to win this game. All right. So pick a game from this week.
How about my guy, Will Rogers? Unbelievable performance once again. I mean, he should be in the Heisman conversation at this point. Big upset at Auburn. Throws for 415 yards, 6 TDs, 44 and 55 passing. This guy puts Mississippi State on his back every week, gives him a chance to win, puts up 43 points. And finally, his teammates come through for him and help him out, unlike the last 2 weeks when they've lost, because his teammates keep letting him down. But this guy's unbelievable. He's going to be in the Heisman conversation next year. I guarantee it. I'm not going to make the same mistake I made with Joe Burrow, where I didn't bet on him to win the Heisman. I'm going to bet on Will Rogers to win the Heisman once next year starts.
Bet your whole estate, everything.
Yeah, all $5,000 will be going on Will Rogers.
Yeah, I'm going to talk about this Texas A&M Ole Miss game. This is one of Mike's teams here, Texas A&M.
So is Ole Miss.
By the way, Texas A&M takes on Prairie View this week. That's a tough team.
Oh man,
they're playing everybody. Anyways, A&M, Mike had them in the playoff. He was talking about last week how there's still a clear path from the playoff.
I don't know if I said that.
Really just dominated in this game by Ole Miss. Ole Miss is the better team.
Well, I mean, Luke had USC in the playoffs, so.
Good point.
That was before they fired. That's before they fired what's his face.
Well, next year you're gonna have Georgia Southern in the playoff because they hired Clay Helton.
I might.
All right.
I know Jimbo Fisher's a national champion, but frankly, I think Ole Miss is a better coach too. They just dominated the game, all aspects.
And listen, Ole Miss has a killer defensive coordinator.
That's right.
I was going to talk about Oregon State, but I feel like I've talked about them a little bit too much lately.
Really?
Also, I'll talk about the entire Pac-12 North race because this is one of the more interesting races in the country. Because you got 3 teams that are still in it, still a shot.
No, it's really not interesting at all.
Oregon, 6-1,
Oregon is 2
Uh,
games ahead of everybody else.
Right, but okay. Let me go over this because it's very interesting.
Oregon State is not beating Oregon.
Listen, let me talk. Here, Oregon goes on the road to Utah. They are an underdog, and I expect them to lose that game. If Oregon loses that game, and then loses to Oregon State in the Battle of the Pond, both teams, and assuming Oregon State beats Arizona State this week, that they be 6-3, and then Washington State has 2 pretty easy games to end the year. They got Arizona, and they got Washington. So now you got 3 teams at 6-3. Now, to be honest with you, I haven't gone and looked at the tiebreak. I'm sure Oregon would take the tiebreak somehow. But I just found that interesting. So
Did Oregon State beat Washington State?
No, Washington State beat Oregon State, but Oregon State beat Oregon, and Oregon beat Washington State. So you have that 3-way tie thing that the Big Ten East was worried about. What we were talking about before Michigan State lost. If I'm an Oregon State fan, I hope Washington State loses, and I went out, and Oregon loses to Utah. A lot of things have to happen, but still possible. We can still go to Santa Clara. Nobody would be there for that game, the Oregon State Utah game. But it'd still be a fun atmosphere, I'm sure.
Mike, I'm hoping for an Oregon State, Michigan State Rose Bowl.
Oh God. Well, we're not making the Rose Bowl, so
What a colossal waste of airtime that was. Oregon
That would be Mike's wet dream.
Chance to beat Oregon.
Really,
They beat
that's
them
what
last year.
Yeah, last year didn't count.
What does Oregon struggle with?
They don't
Oregon
struggle with
State.
anything Oregon State's going to present to them.
Oregon struggles with the run. Who is the number one running team in the
It's not going
Pac-12?
to matter anyways because Oregon State is going to lose this week, so it's going to be over.
Who has one of the best offensive lines in the Pac-12?
Yeah, Oregon State's
State
out of it because they're going to lose this week. So
well, we're still going to win the Civil War or the Battle of the Pond. So it doesn't matter if we're in it or not because Oregon State is the better team. All right. So talk about the playoff rankings, I suppose. Top 7 did not change. So talk about whatever you want to talk about there.
Yeah, no surprise from the playoff rating. The committee once again using the rankings to justify who they want where. It's a kangaroo committee is what it is. It really is. It's a kangaroo committee. And the rankings don't mean anything as far as I'm concerned.
yeah, I mean nothing really surprising. I still don't understand the Oregon, Ohio State, Michigan State dynamic, but whatever. It didn't change from last week, so whatever.
It won't matter once Oregon State wins the Pac-12.
Yeah.
Listen, if Oregon State wins the Pac-12, they better be in the top 10 of these rankings. That's all I'll say. I mean, they might be knocking on the door for the playoff at that point. I mean, you never know what's going on at this point because, well, all right. Anyway, yeah, there's not really much I can say. Michigan's a better football team than we are. Here's my problem. My problem is if you're going to slot us one spot behind Michigan, you might as well slot us one spot ahead because if we're that far behind Michigan that the head-to-head doesn't matter, then we should be behind Notre Dame, Oklahoma State, Wake Forest. We should, to be honest with you, we should be where Oklahoma is around that point because we both have 1 loss. Yes, we have a win against Michigan, but Oklahoma has much more overwhelming results, I'd say, than we do. They didn't lose. If Oklahoma beat Indiana by 5, the committee would be up in arms. And I know they had a struggle against Kansas, but whatever. I mean, there's nothing really else I care about with these rankings. But here's the thing that the great Dan Patrick said on his show today. Did you see that they're trying to get the 12-team playoff for next year?
I saw that, yeah.
But here's the thing. Dan Patrick also said when the Big Ten was coming back to football last year that Michigan and Michigan State weren't going to play. So I don't know if I believe him. But you want to discuss this 12-team possible playoff for next year, I guess? I don't know.
It's bogus. It needs to be a 6-team playoff. I've said this for the past 2 years. 6-team playoff, not 16, 6
No,
team.
no,
6 teams. You take the 5 conference champions, then you
No.
take the highest ranked group of 5 champion. There you go. There are your 6 teams.
I hate that.
Yeah.
Why?
It's awful.
Why?
You can't do people getting a bye.
Why?
That guarantees the top 2 are going to win the whole thing because you don't
No,
have
it
to play that
doesn't.
extra game. If you have a 12,
You have to reward them.
yes, make it 12. Reward the top 4, just like you do.
No,
now.
but then the
Reward
conference
top
then the
4.
conference championship games don't mean anything.
No, that's not true. They mean seeding.
Number 1 Georgia going up against number 2 Alabama. Why do they care if they win or not?
Here's the problem. Do you want 8 and 6 Pittsburgh if they win the ACC in the playoff?
Yeah, well, that's not going to happen because the conferences
It's
once
not
they
gonna
realize
happen?
once the conferences realize that's a possibility, they'll change their format to get their 2 best teams in the conference championship game. I guarantee you that.
Okay. Well, I've heard the 12-team playoff thing, top 5, not just Power 5 conference champs, but top 5 conference champs rating wise, and then wild cards after that, or I whatever. But I don't like the 16 because I don't like the 2 getting the bye. I just think it doesn't. You're not really adding anything there. It's basically a 4-team playoff with 2 buys. So
It should be a
No.
64-team playoff.
I think it should be. I mean, if we're gonna go 64, let's just add everybody.
Sure.
128 teams, 100. Well, there's 130, so we'll have 2 playing games, and then 128. That's perfect.
I agree.
Get rid of the regular season.
Yep.
Just have one big tournament.
Yeah.
What? How many rounds would that be? 7 rounds.
Okay, so
Possibly-
have four games.
Best
Yeah,
of
player
7.
rivalry games.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what they should do.
All right. So updated playoff right now.
Georgia, Ohio State. I don't think Alabama's going to make it. So I don't think Oregon's going to make it. So that would leave then Cincinnati and obviously Michigan and Michigan State would then lose. So Notre Dame maybe. But if that happens, Alabama would get in with 2
No.
losses. So I'm going with Georgia, Ohio State, Alabama, Cincinnati.
Yeah, I completely agree. That's my exact playoff as well. Alabama will get in with 2 losses over 1 loss Notre Dame or 1 loss Oklahoma State.
Looking at this, I think it's a little. I'm not saying it's wide
If they
open.
get blown out though by Georgia, then Notre Dame could get in.
I'd say this is as wide open as it was. It's as wide open as it's ever been since 2014, and that was when we had the Ohio State TCU controversy, and then Baylor was in there too. So you had like 6 teams going for 4 spots. Now it's a little more wide open. Here's the thing: Georgia's going to make it. Of course, they got a tough game coming up against Georgia Tech and whoever else they play. Georgia
They probably
Tech
play
again.
Mercer this week.
No, they actually have Charleston Southern this week.
Oh, great.
Here's my scenario. I think Oregon loses to Utah and they're out. I think Ohio State wins out for the most part, but I could see Michigan really giving them a scare. So they're in. Georgia 1, Georgia 1, Ohio State 2. I'm a little worried about Cincinnati this week. If they can get by this week, maybe. I'd put Cincinnati 3. And then the 4th spot, I'm not going to put Notre Dame in because there's no way they have not beaten anybody.
Is there a rule? Is there a rule that if 2 conference teams get in the playoffs, they can't play each other?
No, there's no rule about that.
They tend to stray away from that. So if it was Alabama and Cincinnati 3-4, they'd probably put Alabama 3.
Well, here's
What
what
a
I've
joke.
heard.
What a joke.
I've heard
That
I've
would
heard
be
they
that
want
would be a
to,
big P.
I've heard if Alabama and Georgia get in, they want them to play each other right away because they don't want an all SEC national championship. That's what I've heard, but I could see the other way too. And then who would the fourth team be? It's either 2-loss Alabama, 2-loss Michigan. Throw Michigan State out of the way because they have no chance. Or you know what? I'm going to throw Oklahoma State in there right now because
with one loss.
I don't think Oklahoma's
presumably.
very good. Yeah, I think Oklahoma State's going to win out. Now I'm throwing out the choke factor of Mike Gundy against Oklahoma, but this is the worst Oklahoma's been in a while. So
Well, he's not going to
especially-
choke at Bedlam. If he's
You
going to
think
choke,
they
it's going to
would
be the
get
Big
in?
12 championship game.
So, Mike, if Alabama, let's say Alabama loses like 20-17 in the SEC championship, close game the whole time, you think Oklahoma State with one loss gets in over Alabama?
yes, because Oklahoma State will have 3 really good wins. Really good wins.
But it's one of
Either
those scenarios, too, where them beating Oklahoma twice hurts their own resume because Oklahoma then has 3 losses.
And it goes back to best
Right.
teams and most deserving teams. Alabama is better than Oklahoma State. If they're going to put the
Well,
four better,
obviously, if they were going for best teams, then Ohio State would be above Oregon right now. So I don't know what they're going for, to be honest with you. It's all convoluted. I could see a 2-loss Alabama making it. I could. But I think if Oklahoma State's 13-1, I think they get in over, what would that be? 11-2, or that would be 10 oh no, yeah, 11-2 that would be 11-2 Alabama. I still think Oklahoma State would get in over that Alabama team just because Alabama, what's their best win? Ole Miss at home. It's a
Yeah,
little
but
underwhelming.
it's the best team, most deserving team thing. You want the best teams, you go with Alabama.
I don't think Alabama's that good.
Well, they're better
Here's
than
the thing.
Oklahoma State.
Yes, if they lose 20-17 to Georgia, good chance to get in, but I don't think it's going to be that close. So, I'll go with Okie State, but one team to watch out for is Michigan because this committee loves Michigan. They've proven that they can't get enough in Michigan. If Michigan barely loses to Ohio State, they're in the conversation. Could you imagine that? Harbaugh beats nobody, doesn't beat his rivals, still gets in the playoff.
Great. That'd be great. I'll take it.
I take that because we get Pasadena. Okay.
Yeah, Michigan and
Against
Ohio
Oregon
State in
State.
the national championship game.
Yeah. Talk a couple coaching vacancies. We're getting some smoke out of Gainesville, some smoke out of Miami. It appears that Dan Mullen isn't going to make it. It appears now that Miami fired their AD, it does not look good for Manny Diaz either. Virginia Tech's open, LSU, USC. So any thoughts on these openings this year?
It's an interesting year because there are a lot of top jobs that are open, and there are a lot of jobs that would normally be number 1 jobs in a normal year, but it seems like they've all come open this year, and it's going to be very interesting to see who teams look at and where people might be interested. I know Franklin came out today and said he wasn't interested in any of the jobs, which I know is kind of take that with a grain of salt. But especially with Penn State's struggle down the stretch, everyone kind of assumed Franklin was the number 1 guy to go after, and I don't know if that's true anymore.
Yeah, I still expect Franklin to go to USC. As for LSU, I don't know if you guys have looked at this, some of the stuff around Lincoln Riley.
I don't
Maybe-
think he's.
What'd you say?
I don't think he's leaving.
Yeah, I'd be surprised too, but something to look out for. Mullen.
I don't think he's leaving, and I don't think he is. But the one thing that makes it interesting is the fact that Oklahoma is the big thing with Oklahoma's job right now is it's a big fish in a little pond in the Big 12, and it makes it
Probably
it makes it
next year
relatively
in the
easy
SEC.
to make the playoff. Now, with it going to the SEC, you now get to the point where is LSU bigger? Is LSU a bigger job than Oklahoma in the SEC?
Yeah.
I would argue it might be.
Yes, it is.
Mullen is long gone. That was
Yeah, but
embarrassing.
he was gone once he said that he didn't believe in recruiting.
This weekend was one of the most embarrassing things I've ever seen. After struggling with Samford and then dancing in the locker room after.
And
Ridiculous.
saying
he'll
it's a
never
good
not
win
show
because
up for you
you
to
win.
win.
That was ridiculous showing from Florida.
Well, Chris, I'll use your theory. A win's a win. I mean,
Yeah.
you are what your record says you are.
Yeah, they're 5-5.
Yeah, they're a good. They're a solid, mediocre team.
So they should give Urban Meyer a call, Florida. We'll see what happens.
Urban Meyer, he'll freaking have head issues by year 2. All right, this is going to be by far the craziest coaching carousel year I can think of. To be honest with you, all these jobs open. Washington's open. Wazoo's open. UMass is open, although Don Brown reportedly is the front runner, the leader in the clubhouse for that job. He's having a tough year at Arizona, being the defensive coordinator. And we also saw that Jim Mora Jr. to UConn. What a hire that was. I'll be honest with you, that hire is well above. They punched well above their weight with that hire. I think that's a solid hire for UConn. Now, are they going to be any good? Who knows? The job is just brutal. But I gotta give them credit. Miami, I don't know if you guys saw this, but I'm sure this is a agent tactic, but a leak came out that said if the Miami job opened, Lane Kiffin would take it. Now, in my opinion, I think this is a ploy for more money from Ole Miss, but Miami, I bet you they're
put anything past Lane Kiffin.
I think Miami and Ole Miss are similar jobs in terms of resources. I think Miami.
Yeah, but here's the thing:
not nearly as good of a job as people think.
The advantage Miami has over Ole Miss is that Ole Miss doesn't have the potential to be the best team in its division, never mind its conference. Miami has the potential to not only be the best team in its division, but also be the best team in the Big Ten and the ACC.
Yeah, I agree with that. Miami, I bet you, Miami's a better job just because of the conference that they're in and the fact that they got you could throw a stone out their window and it hit a 5-star.
Yeah, on paper, I think Miami and Ole Miss, if you take out all other factors and just look at the two schools on paper, I would say they're probably similar jobs, maybe giving the edge to Miami because of recruiting. But when you put them into the divisions and the situations they're in, I think Miami's a way better job.
Yeah, I mean, usually each year we have people who we think are going to go to these places, but there's so many open that I can't even come up with a scenario for all these. I think we've heard that.
Well, because the thing is, there are so many question marks about who's available and where people go that one domino that falls has such a big knock-on effect of all these other jobs open that it's hard to make a prediction.
Yeah, we've been hearing that NFL people are interested in the LSU job, and obviously we don't know who. It's not Mike Tomlin. I thought it might have been Matt Rule. I don't know. Maybe he wants to come back to college. Maybe you'd think it'd be at his alma mater. Is he a Penn State guy? I'm pretty sure he's from Penn State.
He's a Penn State guy. He said in the past that Penn State's his ultimate dream job in football, and apparently people in his camp have been looking at trying to get him back into college because he doesn't enjoy the NFL.
Yeah, that wouldn't shock me at all. I think we've heard that Luke Fickell is right now is leading the charge for the USC job at this point because the AD was the former guy who hired him at Cincinnati. There's ties there. And I think that's going to get done. I don't know if that's the right hire, but I think that's what they're going to do. Florida, I have no idea. Obviously, their job hasn't even opened yet. But if it is open, which I'm assuming will be, no idea. No idea what they're going to go after. But I think whoever Florida hires, it's probably going to be underwhelming, to be honest with you.
It's going to be like a Brian Harsin hire.
Yeah. Maybe. Yeah, I wouldn't go after
and that's not to say Brian Harsin was a bad hire. That's just to say he wasn't a big name that was going to be loved by fans.
Yeah, I'll tell you what. I go after Dave Aranda if I'm Florida. That's who I go after. If USC has their guy and LSU has their guy, I don't think Aranda would go to USC. I think he's more of a a Southeast guy anyway. I know he coached in the Big Ten for a while.
If you're Florida and you have a guy you want, you got to go after him immediately. Because the last thing you want is for LSU or USC to step in and possibly take your guy.
Yeah, and now Mel Tucker, I think we assume Mel Tucker's off the list for most of these schools, unless you want to pay him $20 million a year. No.
Nope.
All right. So, I mean, we'll just have to see. I think some of the dominoes will fall probably the week after the season's over. I think we'll find out a lot. All right. We got 2 games to preview. We'll start with Michigan on the road at Maryland. Is this a trap game?
No. It's going to be – I think it's going to stay close for the first half, and then Michigan will pull away. Or actually, no, I think Michigan's going to look really good, and Chris is going to think they're finally going to beat Ohio State, and then it's not going to happen. I think that's what's going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, this could be a trap game if it wasn't Maryland. Maryland has really struggled against good teams this year, as we've seen. Michigan should win the game by what's the spread here? They should cover the 15.5 here. Maybe they don't look as good as they have, but they should still cut. They could play their D game as far as I'm concerned, still win this game. So just don't lose. I think they'll be fine.
I was a little surprised that the line was that low, to be honest with you. 15 for this Michigan team is very low to me. It's on the road, but it's going to be probably mostly Michigan fans in the stadium.
No, they have a very good fan base.
Right. Yeah, exactly. One thing I'm interested to see is I think this is perfect for Michigan. This is setting up beautifully because I think Maryland, like I said earlier, is like a outhouse version of Ohio State. They do similar things. I think you can prepare for Maryland like you're preparing for Ohio State. You got to worry about the speed and space. You got to worry about the runs up the middle, spreading you out, doing those type of things. So I think it's setting up beautifully for Michigan. I think they win. I think they cover. I don't think this is a trap situation. One, because I think Michigan is as confident as they've ever been. And I think they're just better physically. And Maryland struggles. That's the one thing that Maryland is bad at. They are terrible in the trenches. And I think Michigan will exploit both line of scrimmages, offensively and defensively. And Talia he'll give you 3 or 4 interceptable balls per quarter. So you got to take advantage of that. Michigan will win big, probably. That's my opinion. All right, Michigan State. See, this is the largest spread in a top 10 matchup since 2013 when Miami played Florida State. Florida State was like a 21-point favorite, and they won 42-17. Michigan
Florida State was favored and they won?
Yeah, Florida State was favored and they won. Michigan State, anywhere between seems like 19 and 20.5, 21, some places, point underdog on the road at Ohio State. So preview this game.
Yeah, I think Ohio State's playing too well right now for Michigan State to have a chance, and that's both offensively and defensively. I think Ohio State's defense has gotten to the point where they're good enough where they maybe not necessarily win Ohio State a game, but they're not going to lose it for them. And at this point, especially against the Michigan State team, who you do have to worry about their offense a little bit because they do have Kenneth Walker and Peyton Thorne, if it opens up for them, can make the throws. But I don't think they're going to score enough points to compete with Ohio State. And the problem is their defense has been decimated this year with injuries, and the last couple games has been awful. And I just don't think they're going to be able to keep up with Ohio State.
Yeah, I expect Ohio State to win and cover. It's a bad matchup for Michigan State. The secondary obviously is their weakness. Ohio State throws the ball really well. Yeah, I mean, Michigan State I just don't think they're going to be able to get stops. Will they score a decent amount of points? Probably. But, you could be looking at a game. Maybe the final score is around like 62-39 Ohio State.
Well, as long as it isn't 48-3, like 2017. I'm not making the same mistake I made that year. I'm not predicting a Michigan State win and then we go out and lose 48-3. I think Ohio State, I agree. I agree with what Luke said. I agree with what Chris said. They're too much. But here's something I will say. I'm not saying we have a chance at all. But here's the thing Ohio State gives you that I think you can be a little bit confident in. Ohio State they've turned into a solid defensive team, but they're simple. They don't do exotic things on defense. I don't think they're going to change their defense a whole lot from how they've been playing all year. I don't think they're going to load the box to stop the run. I think they're going to say, run it up our throats. We're not going to let you beat us deep, that sort of thing. There's a chance Kenneth Walker has a pretty big day. Because all the teams that haven't loaded the box, Michigan State has been able to run the ball extremely well. Michigan being the probably the prime example of that. Michigan did not load the box the entire game, and Kenneth Walker killed them. And I think he'll have a pretty big day. I think we'll score points. We won't score enough points. But here's what I hope we don't do. I hope we don't play scared. All right. I don't want to be kicking any field goals. If it's 4th and 20, we better be going for it. In Ohio State territory, you play to win the game, man. All right. House money. We're 9-1. All right. This team should not be here, but they are. You play to win the game. You're aggressive. Don't play the stupid bend but don't break. It worked against Miami. All right. Ohio State is like Miami on steroids times 20. You can't play that against these receivers. Because first of all, if you try to play it, you probably won't be able to make the tackle because they're just too fast. So even if you keep them in front of you, they can still get it out. So you might as well send a ton of blitzes, be exotic up front, stunts, all that type of crap that you talk about. All right, I want to see a ton of blitzes. I want to try and make Stroud a little bit uncomfortable. I want to see how well Ohio State's got a terrific offensive line. But like I said, I would blitz on a lot of plays, and sometimes I'd stun. I wouldn't blitz, but I try to get as much pressure on CJ Stroud as I could because he's only been sacked. Did you know this? He's only been sacked 5 times all year. That's unbelievable. 5 times in 10 games.
Oh, you know what team has a pretty good pass rush?
Not Michigan State.
Michigan.
Yeah.
Well, Mike,
Michigan's-
here's the one concern for Michigan State offensively, and it's what gives, I think, Ohio State massive advantage in that matchup is that Ohio State's strength has been against the rush, and where their defense has been weak has been against the pass. Ohio State's 14th in D1 football in rush yards allowed per game.
I agree with you, but Ohio State hasn't played a rushing attack like Ohio State since the Oregon game. There has been nobody Ohio State's played that's been able to run the ball.
I agree, but I just wouldn't say it would be one thing if Ohio State struggles against the run and could stop the pass. But I think Ohio State's defense matches well enough up with Michigan State's offense that they'll do what they have to do to let the offense win the game.
I'm saying I think Kenneth Walker's going to get his numbers. It's going to be in a losing effort, most likely. But I wouldn't be shocked if he got out for, not saying 200, but 150. And he's not going to get 30 carries like he did against Maryland. He'll get 15 to 20, and then might get out for 170, 180. Because I don't think Ohio State is going to load up to stop the run. I think they're going to be more worried about the deep threats. Now, maybe you don't have to, because I seriously doubt Jalen Naylor is going to be playing. He's had a broken hand, it appears. Mel Tucker doesn't comment on injuries, but that's what we assume it is. And the only way I think he'd be playing is in a decoy situation. I think it's going to be Jaden Reed, and it's going to be Trey Mosley and Montori Foster, and they're good receivers, but they're not Jalen Naylor. So I think that hurts. Obviously, our left tackle's out for the year. It seems like defensively, we got to get Simeon Barrow back. I don't think he has to do that half-game suspension for the targeting in the Purdue game because he missed last game with an injury. I don't know that for a fact, though. That's what I've heard. And we need Quavaris Crouch back. But I just want to be aggressive, man. All right, if you lose because Ohio State hits 10 deep balls, all right, there's nothing to be ashamed about. All right, you tried your hardest. You tried to put pressure on them, and you just got beat. If you lose because you get dink and dunked down the field, and Ohio State dominates every play, and then your offense is cold sitting on the bench for a while, that is not what you want. You want to, if you're going to let Ohio State score, let them score in a second. Get the ball back. Try and match it. Ohio State's going to win, and they're going to probably cover. But it's a good situation to be in. I'd rather be in Michigan. I mean, I wouldn't rather be in Michigan State's shoes right now. Obviously, I'd rather be in Ohio State's shoes, but I think the pressure is certainly on Ohio State. And, I'm not saying Ohio State's going to look ahead to Michigan, but there's always that factor. I saw this stat too. In the last 10 years, Ohio State has not covered in the game before Michigan. Not once has Ohio State covered. And now they haven't really played a team the caliber of Michigan State besides the 2015 game. And 2016, we were 3-7 when we played Ohio State, but that game was very close. So maybe that's a factor. I don't really think it is, because I think Ohio State's going to be ready for this game. We aren't unranked coming into this game or anything. So, all right. Let's move on to the picks here. Let me get them out. We'll start with tonight. I believe this is tonight. Oh, no, this is tomorrow. Air Force at Nevada.
Air Force at Nevada. I would.
Actually, I do think this is tonight.
I like Air Force.
I'll also take Air Force.
Yeah, I agree. Air Force.
What are the standings looking like?
I don't know. I haven't really looked at the Mountain West.
All right.
Or are we talking about the standings and the picks?
The pick standings.
Okay, you're up 6 on Chris. You went 15-6. Chris went 14-7. I went
Let's
12-9. I'm 16 games back now. Same thing that goes for Michigan State goes for me. I got to go out swinging here. All right, Michigan State at Ohio State.
Ohio State.
Ohio State.
Ohio State. Wake Forest at Clemson.
Oh God, Clemson has gone on a little run here. I'm going to go Clemson.
Yeah, I'm going to take Clemson.
Well, I was going to take Clemson, but you two took Clemson, so I'm going to take Wake. All right, Iowa State at Oklahoma.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Iowa State.
Oklahoma.
I'm going to go with Oklahoma as well. Florida State at Boston College.
Boston College.
Boston College. New team with Dracovic.
Florida State. Not going to make a bowl this year, but I think they're going to finish the season strong. I'll take Florida State. Purdue at Northwestern.
Purdue.
Northwestern.
I will be taking Purdue as well.
Games at Wrigley Field.
Yeah.
Oh boy. That might actually give Northwestern a huge advantage, but I'll still take Purdue. Rutgers at Penn State.
Penn State.
Penn State.
I will take Penn State as well, but this is a sneaky game. Texas at West Virginia.
West Virginia.
Yeah, Texas is dead. I'm taking West Virginia.
Yeah, I'll take West Virginia as well. Washington at Colorado.
What a game.
Washington.
I guess I'll take Washington.
Listen, it's a short point spread, so it's on here.
That's another game. That's another job that's going to be open this winter. That's a somewhat decent sized job.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with you.
I mean,
Colorado.
it's a top three job in the Pac-12.
Probably the first time since a while that I've taken Colorado, but I'll take them. Arkansas at Alabama.
Yeah, Alabama.
Alabama.
Alabama, but I'll be interested to see if Arkansas can stop the run like LSU did, because that's a bad sign for Alabama. They got to be able to run the ball. Michigan at Maryland.
Michigan.
Michigan.
Yeah, Michigan. Nebraska at Wisconsin.
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 No, I don't know. Wisconsin. Virginia at Pittsburgh.
Pitt, even though every time I pick against Bronco Mendenhall, he comes back and bites me in the ass.
I'll take Pitt.
Yeah, I don't think Armstrong's playing for Virginia, so I'm going to take Pittsburgh. Minnesota at Indiana.
Minnesota.
Minnesota.
I'll take Minnesota also, but this point spread is small considering Indiana just got blown out. Minnesota has struggled the last couple games. I'll take Minnesota. Florida at Missouri.
Florida.
Yeah, I'm taking Missouri. It's my lock of the week.
Yeah, I mean, even if you lose your team, Missouri is just that bad. I'm going to take Florida.
They almost lost to Samford last week, and then we're dancing in the locker room. There's no way they're going to win this game.
Yeah, they will.
Mike,
Missouri is that bad.
Mike, what happened to UTEP here?
Yeah, listen, their schedule's gotten a little bit tougher, and they've the Fighting Dave Warners aren't as good as we thought they were. Louisiana at Liberty.
Are we not picking the civil conflict?
What's that?
UCF UConn.
No, I was
rivalry.
looking at that game, and I
The
was
biggest
gonna put-
rivalry in college football.
you know, I was going-
I'll take Louisiana.
I'll just take Louisiana.
I was going to take Louisiana until you two did. I'm taking Liberty. Home win. All right. UCLA at USC.
UCLA.
UCLA.
UCLA. Chip Kelly finally going bowling at UCLA. Baylor at Kansas State.
Yeah, I'm taking Baylor.
Baylor.
I'm taking Kansas State. Letdown spot. Home favorite Kansas State. 8-3 Kansas State if they win this game. Auburn at South Carolina.
Auburn.
Auburn, even without Bo Nix.
Man, what a brutal loss for Auburn last week.
Yeah.
Horrible loss. South Carolina, Shane Beamer. Give me South Carolina. On the come up.
Well,
Cal-
eligible if they win.
That's right. Yeah, well, they'll beat Clemson next week anyway, so it doesn't matter. Cal at Stanford.
Cal.
I'll take Stanford.
Rivalry game. Big rivalry game.
Stanford is horrible. I'll take Cal. Oregon at Utah.
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 I was gonna take Utah until you two did. So I'm gonna take Oregon. Upset. Road upset, despite being the third team in the country. Virginia Tech at Miami.
Miami.
I guess I'll take Miami.
Miami's looking good recently.
Yeah, Virginia Tech is done. I'll take Miami. Oklahoma State at Texas Tech.
Oklahoma State.
Oklahoma State. Close.
Yeah, I'm a little worried about this game. But if Oklahoma State can win this game, it's definitely a look ahead spot. I think Tech covers, but I'll take Oklahoma State. Wyoming at Utah State.
Utah State.
I guess I'll take Utah State.
I don't know if you guys have been following Wyoming this year, but I have, and they are basically 2018 Michigan State. They have a great defense and a horrible offense. I'll take Utah State. We got this game on here because it's probably going to be close. UL Monroe at LSU here.
Well, my guy down at or I guess it's Chris's guy down at UL Monroe. What's his
Rich
face?
Rod now.
Rich Rod. It's going to keep this game close, so I'll take LSU.
Yeah. LSU. I don't know, Mike. They're a 29-point favorite.
It's
Yeah,
because Rich Rod. It's because Rich Rod's the OC.
Yeah, Rhett Rodriguez is the quarterback.
Yeah. I'm going to take LSU here.
Yeah, I'll also take LSU. You know what? Screw it. I'm 16 games back. Give me UL Monroe. All right. Final game, Arizona State at Oregon State.
I'll take Oregon State.
Arizona State, second lock of the week.
Yeah, that's ridiculous. Arizona State. I think this might be talk about another job that might be open. This might be the last couple of games for Herm.
Oh, give me a break. They're 7-3. Everybody talks about like they've had a horrible season. They're 7-3.
Well,
Yeah,
they have a bunch of controversy surrounding
Yeah,
it.
that's fine. Who cares?
Have you seen Jane Daniels' stat line?
Yeah, he'll be fine next
He
year.
has
He's gonna
been
win the-
brutal.
Well, he's going to win the
He's been
Heisman
brutal.
next year. So.
Yeah, well, he's going to have to not have 8 touchdowns and 8 interceptions next year. Oregon State wins this game. Washington State loses to Arizona, and Oregon loses to Utah, even though I picked Oregon to win. And then that will set up a clash in the Battle of the Pond for the Pac-12 North next week. All right. That's going to do it for this episode of the Big Four podcast. We'll be back with football and basketball next week, and we will be talking about Michigan State's big win against Ohio State. So we'll see you next time.